New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Yes, come on, it's Saturday morning. It is time for the Science of Mind and Spirit Saturday morning conversations. And my name is Tracy Brown, Dr. Tracy Brown, RScP. And I love hanging out with you on Saturday mornings. And even if you're watching the recording, right, I want you to have that Saturday morning energy. It's the weekend. Let's dive into some science of mind. And today, thank you, Linda, for saying good morning. I love. Oh, I bet it's really cool in the mountains of Colorado. Right here in the center of North Texas, we have a little cloudy day today, probably some rain this afternoon. And Wayne, it would not be Saturday morning Science of Mind conversations without you. Thanks for being with us. And Peter, good morning to you as well. And oh, wow, as I scan all the little controls and icons, we've got a lot of people online. Some of you are on YouTube, some of you are on one of 3 different Facebook pages. And oh my goodness, hey Shay, how you doing? Linda, what? 39 degrees at 9 in the morning in Colorado. I'm just not quite there yet. Just quite not there yet. 39 makes me shiver, the idea of it. So what are we doing today? Well, first, just in case there's anyone who is watching for the first time, what we do with Saturday morning Science of Mind conversations is during the first 8 months of the year, we go through the Science of Mind textbook written by Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science and the author of Science of Mind. And we go through it in sequence so that we can get the big picture and really understand and dive deeper into what is science of mind? What are the principles and what guidance do we have to use them? And then from mid-August through the end of the year, we focus on what information, articles, audio files, transcripts of talks or classes, what is in the Science of Mind archives that helps us talk about the principles related to science of mind and how we apply them in our lives. So that's kind of the big picture. So we're in that part of the year where every week one of us chooses something from the Science of Mind archives, which I encourage you to visit. And if you go to the archives, you can find different things. So, what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about and be inspired by the November 1922. Okay, we know that's not correct. Since Science of Mind, the book was written, or Science of Mind movement was officially started in 1927. So, okay, try again. Take two. Today, we are going to be inspired by the Science of Mind magazine published in November of 1992. So we're going to go back a few decades. And what happened was I was looking just at November. I thought, oh, let me check some of the November magazines and see what the daily guide was. What was the devotion? What were the quotes that were used? What happened in the daily guides on November 2nd in past years? And so I ended up choosing this issue from 1992 for a couple of reasons. So there were 3 different articles that I wanted to read. And I also liked the daily devotion, or what we refer to as the daily guide. So I'm going to share the daily guide because it'll give us a sense of spiritual practice for the first few minutes of our conversation today. And I will be curious about how the message hits you and what you think about what was in the daily guide. And then we'll spend the remainder of our time talking about an article that was based on an interview that the editor of the magazine did with Maya Angelou. And what Maya Angelou had to say that relates to and reflects applying science of mind principles in our lives. So let's start in with the daily devotion. Let me find it because I want to pull it up where you can see it as well. Great. So today is November 2nd. So on November 2nd in 1992, the Daily Guide was focused on the theme of co-creators. Co-creators. And the person who wrote the daily themes that year actually started with a quote from Lao Tzu. A journey of 1,000 miles must begin with a single step, right? And the whole theme of this guide is co-creators. And so from the Science of Mind magazine, the quote selected was, "The law must work in compliance with our demand." How many of us forget that we actually are co-creating, and that what we teach in the science of mind is that the law is always responding to that which we claim, that which we demand, that which we expect. And so this quote, using this quote at the beginning of a conversation or a reflection on co-creating is really, really powerful. The law must work in compliance with our demand. So, first paragraph, it is up to us to take the first step toward making a change in whatever area is needful. If we want to drive to a distant city, we get into the car, we turn on the ignition, we back out of the driveway. When a baby begins to toddle, the first steps usually are halting and uncertain, but the child is on the way to learning to walk. So already it's that it doesn't happen to us. Like everything doesn't just happen. We participate in that change. We participate in the movement forward. And I love when there is a synchronicity that I could not have ever imagined. So Shay, that 1992 was when you left home and left behind an unhealthy lifestyle and started over. So you were co-creating by the choices that you were making, even before knowing there was, science of mind and spirit available to guide you and encourage you along the way. I love it. I love it. I love it. So let's keep going in the guide. Let's keep going in the guide. Second paragraph. In whatever part of life we want to improve or change, we must take the first step. Knowing we can succeed, knowing the universe will support our effort, though we may feel unsure at the beginning. When we can see the goal and when we begin to move toward it, our attempts are often rewarded in ways that we could not imagine. And this really is our reminder to claim what it is that we want and to trust that we will be moving in that direction and that the universe will provide whatever is needed in people, in resources, in finances, in education, learning, or development, that we begin to move in that direction. And then the universe is with us, behind us, right? Beside us, moving together. The guide for November 2nd in 1992 goes on to say that it is, if we desire a different job, more financial abundance, a more loving relationship, whatever our soul's sincere desire may be, will be respected by the great God who wants us to live happy and successful lives. When we enter into partnership with the Creator, we can move from wishing and hoping to become a co-creator in the design for living. The law of mind waits only for us to identify what it is we seek and then to take the first tentative steps toward it. When what we seek hurts no one and takes nothing from another, our strength will be sufficient for our task as we're supported by the one who awaits our recognition. So, one of the things that's really important here is for us to remember what is written here, that sure, we decide or we set our sights or we have a vision for where we want to go. And we must begin to step toward that. We treat, we do spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer, and we say, treat and move your feet. When people are relatively new in new thought, often they will say, well, I'm picking up that I just have to think, or I just have to decide what I want, and the universe will provide it. There's a reminder in this daily guide that we choose and then begin to act. So, yes, we're in new thought, but we're centers for spiritual living. And the living part is combining thought with action in order to get a certain result. So, again, the theme of this devotion or this daily guide from November 2nd, 1992 is reminding us we are co creators. And so we have our part to play as well. And then the guide ends with, I know I do not have to face challenge alone. My constant companion, the Christ within, ever supports me. And today I take the first step in my journey to a richer, more loving experience of life. And I am thankful. Do you love that as much as I do? I do not have to face change alone. Right? I partner with and I rely on the Christ within that is providing divine wisdom, guidance, love, joy. That is my connection to eternal joy, peace, harmony, unity, wholeness, right? That together, this support, and it allows me to, I take the first step in my journey to a richer, more loving experience of life. A richer, more loving experience of life. So, what are you going to do today to take your first step or your next step toward a richer and more fulfilling journey of life? What is it that just immediately right now comes to mind? Well, I could do this and I would be moving toward a richer experience of life. Oh, I should call this person, or oh, you know what? Today I'm going to do this thing in order to move toward a richer, more loving experience of life. I would say a more joyful experience of life, a more peaceful experience of life. What is it that you are ready to do? And as I've been saying this out loud, I promise you, I didn't think about this before. But as I'm talking about it now and asking you, what's something you will do today to move toward a, the way of life you'd like to have? And what came to my mind is, oh, I am going today to walk to the beautiful park that is a block and a half from my house and walk the trail at least once. So it has a trail that's just short of a mile. And the last couple of days, I've been thinking, I really need to get out there and walk. I'll feel so good. I'll feel much better if I do. And I'm preparing to go on vacation and I'll be walking a lot. So today, my next step or my first step, right, at the very bottom, right, today I take the first step in my journey to a richer, more loving experience of life. And I am thankful for it. So if you want to put in, if you would like to put in the chat what step you are going to take today toward a richer life, because you know and you are being reminded whoops, that you are a co-creator, then drop that in the chat. But what I am going to do is definitely, I've said it to you publicly. Now I have accountability. I am going to walk to the park, not drive to the park. I'm going to walk to the park and I'm going to do the trail at least once, if not twice, before before dark, sometime between now and before dark. And I love it. Uh, Peter's going to start a new journal today. Yes, yes, yes. And I love who I believe is the good Reverend Dr. Brzezinski, maybe posting under New Thought Media Network. I always come back to how can I serve others today? Yes. Like, what am I going to do and commit as a co creator? Yes, yes, I can serve other people and be you might be the only example they find or experience today. That is the example of God in action, love in action, spirit in action. Shay, what are you going to do? I'm going to call my friend, the town administrator, David, and ask him over for lunch to discuss our plans. Take the next step that leads to what you are co-creating with spirit. If you don't take the next step, think about it this way. Spirit is depending on you to guide the elements that are brought together. Spirit is depending on you. And so that means you have to take some action. You are co-creating, not being created upon. So I was delighted when I found this particular daily guide or daily guidance in the Science of Mind magazine for November 2nd of this particular year. I really, really was like co-creating. Yes, that's it. That's what I want to focus on for the first half of our time today. And then I was looking at what other articles or what are the articles that are in this issue of the magazine. So we're looking at the Science of Mind magazine from November 1992. And I, of course, on the cover had noticed that there was a photo of Maya Angelou, but I didn't actually open the magazine for that. I was looking at the daily guides. And then I was like, wait a minute, making my home my heaven, making my home my heaven. It's like, ooh. Now, a few of you know that I moved 6 weeks ago now. When I moved in September of 2024. And so here we are at the beginning of November 2024. And in my first 6 weeks of having moved, I actually was traveling in and out of town almost 4 weeks, but 3.5 to 4 weeks of the last 6 weeks. So even though I moved in 6 weeks ago, at a certain level, I'm just in my second week of being in the new house. And so that title, Making My Home My Heaven, is very, well, it resonates with me right now because, of course, that's what I am trying to do. make my home, number one, make the house feel like it's my home. And my one of my themes, or my main theme this year, has been seventh heaven, that I live my life in seventh heaven, the seventh level, the highest level of heaven, the completion of the creation of heaven on earth and in my life. So, no surprise that making my home my heaven would catch my attention. And what I was about to say was, and who's not a fan of Maya Angelou and her writing and her energetic, the way her soul showed up on earth during her physical human life. But I'm sure there are some people who are not fans, but I am a fan. So let's dive into this interview, this article that was based on and edited from an interview that Kathy Julene, who was the editor of Science of Mind magazine at the time, that Kathy Julene wrote and edited from this conversation with Maya Angelou. So you're going to have to maybe count to 12 while I switch over to that particular screen. And here we go. Making my home my heaven. Now, in this particular issue, and again, we're looking at the November 1992 issue of Science of Mind magazine, the first page really, in addition to that, really what I think is a really cute, fun, friendly, high energy image of Dr. Angelou. The first part really is a summary of her background, in case there are readers who are not familiar with all the work that she did and all of the interviews and how much she's an expert in so many areas. But we're going to talk about some of the actual questions and some of the actual comments. So the question, as a poet, singer, writer, dancer, and actor, you are an unusually creative person. To what do you attribute your remarkable creativity? I loved and love, in the present tense, her response. I do not think of myself as unusually creative. Let me make it a little bigger so you can read along too. First, I do not think of myself as unusually creative. I think we all come from the Creator, each human being streaming with the glory. So each one of us is creative. Okay. Have you ever read anything in the Science of Mind textbook? Have you ever heard, read, or referred to anything that Ernest Holmes wrote about the truth of each one of us being an example of the one, being imbued with and a physical representation of all of the qualities and attributes of God, of Spirit, of the Creator? So I love that her very first answer to that question was, oh no, you've got it wrong. Don't get it twisted. Every single human being is streaming with creativity, the creative power, and I'm not special. She does go on to say that each one of us is blah, blah, blah. Some of us, according to our physiology, have sharper ears for music. a keener eye for painting or sculpture, stronger hands for playing instruments, or quicker muscles for dancing. But I think we are all creative because we all come from the Creator. I love her response. You are creative. And it's not just about the performing arts or the visual arts. We are all co creators with the universe in creating the lives that we want to live. When I read this, I was like, all right, I've got to read the whole interview. I am already a fan of Dr. Maya Angelou, and I can hardly wait to see what else she said, what other wisdom she shared related to living science mind principles. So um, she is asked, do you have any sense of having a personal destiny that was divinely ordained? Or do you feel that the course of your life has been of your own personal making? Answer. I recognize that I am a child of God. And so it doesn't even occur to me that my life is of my own making. I do believe that God gives us choice. There is choice in my life. And I have been blessed to make some good choices. But the energy I use is the energy of the universe. Now, all of this on the right hand side is straight what we teach in science of mind, right? The creator makes available an incredible array of things we can do. If we happen to be born into certain families, certain races, certain environments, we can make certain choices. I don't think experience is preordained. If so, we would have no choice. One of the reasons I love this article, and one of the reasons I love that during the last 4 months of the year, we actually go to the archives, is because it's one thing to read and think about how Ernest Holmes described this philosophy, this faith system, this way of life. And when we go to the archives, we can find ways that he said it or examples he gave that were in a class or from a lecture. And that gives us a slightly different perspective. And we also in the archives have so many resources like this where we get to see how other people take up science of mind principles and live them. And so it is pretty amazing to read something from 1992 and an interview with a celebrity who actually doesn't have the title of minister, does not did not show up as, oh, I'm going to be, an elected leader in Centers for Spiritual Living, but is a person who integrated what we teach into her own philosophy and her own way of being in the world and touched millions of people by her example. So let's look at a couple more examples of her responses to questions that she was asked. The next question was, what influences do you feel have figured significantly in what you've been able to achieve in your life? And she talks about family, she talks about race and ethnicity, and then she talks about being, a writer, someone who writes, and then her final response to that question was, "It's also my good fortune to be a religious person, which means I have a wonderful amount of confidence because I know I am a child of God." Is that how your confidence shows up? And it shows up to give you the confidence to be who you really are? I love this comment. I was reading the magazine during those years and don't remember this article. What a gem, such a great rediscovery. And you are very welcome. I also don't remember this article at the time or from that time, but yes, it's a rediscovery. And I find that with so many articles in past issues of Science of Mind, because I'm different from who I was at that time. So it means something really, really different from me, for me now than it might have been. And I agree completely. One of the highest values of hanging out on the Science of Mind archives site is rediscovering what's already in the universe, what's always already and always available to us, but based on where we are in our lives at this time, being being retaught or having something really show up in a way that we need it right now. That is so powerful. So if you are not already, anyone watching, if you're not already a regular visitor to the Science of Mind archives and library, please, please visit scienceofmindarchives.com, and it's scrolling on the screen as a reminder for you. And when when you go in, you can download things for 99 cents or $1.99 or, $4.99. The prices are really reasonable. However, if you're going to do that and you really are studying over, and you intend to be studying over the course of the year, then I would really highly encourage you to sign up for a monthly or an annual membership, because when you join, you get a certain number of downloads at no additional charge. Your membership includes downloads. So every month, I have some friends who live in cities where they don't have access to the regular programming of a local CSL community or center. And so I've strongly recommended, join with the plan that gives you 10 downloads a month. Every week, make it your spiritual practice to download 2 articles or 2 magazines, right? Download 2 things every week and read them. And that is your way to deepen your understanding of Science of Mind and how to use it. So I do have a half dozen friends, so that's what they've done. And then I get the email saying, wait, I just read this article that Ernest Holmes wrote about, do you work too hard? And what he said about it. Can we talk about it? And I'm like, yeah, sure, because I want to read that article too. So right now, what we're looking at is the article that is the reflection of what Dr. Maya Angelou had to say about living these principles and making your home your heaven. And Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson, yes, my confidence and conviction, like Maya's, comes from this awareness that she referred to, awareness of being a child of God. And what many of us, Raymond, you can put in the chat how you think about that. But I, instead of as a child of God, the theme for this issue is today's meditation, or today's daily guide from 1992, that we are co-creators with God and with spirit, with the universal law. And so we each have a different way, or we might have different ways of talking about it. So let's get back to what Maya had to say in response to other questions that she was asked. So she was asked, have you discovered in your life that what you thought was a devastating catastrophe proved later to be a blessing? And with, I'm guessing, a dash of humor, she starts off with, yeah, about 400 million times. And then she refers to the song that has the lyrics in it based on a biblical passage. When it looks like the sun wasn't going to shine anymore, God put a rainbow in the cloud. It doesn't say that God put a rainbow in the sky, because sometimes the clouds can prohibit your seeing the sun and the stars. The rainbow is actually in the clouds, which means that in the greatest disaster, if your position is just right, you can see the blessing that goes with the disaster, or what we label as a disaster. And then the next question is, before the blessing in a difficult situation is evident, it often provokes a reaction of anger. Can you suggest ways to deal with and release that anger? And she starts off with, I try to apply a statement I think I first read in Science of Mind when I was very young. And then she riffs on the statement, let go and let God, and refers to how she does that in her own life and how she learned to apply it. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit. The entire interview is fabulous. The entire interview is fabulous. And so I can't make you go to the Science of Mind archives and library and buy this issue of the magazine for $1.99. But I highly encourage it. Or if you are a member of the archives, because there are actually several other articles in this issue, like every issue has many articles, many memories, or as we saw a few minutes ago, many rediscoveries. Then you can get the full thing, because I'm looking at the time and I'm gonna skip to a couple of the other questions, especially this one right here. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to put it on the screen where you can read it while I continue to read about it. But the question was, and remember, this was 1992, signs of the possibility of greater universal harmony do seem to be appearing in the world. We've seen the Berlin Wall come down. And we've seen a rapport develop between Russia and the United States. Are you sensing an end to separation and hatred, prejudice, and conflict? Take a breath. because I know you want to know what Maya Angelou had to say about that question. So here we go. On the left-hand side, signs of the possibility. She starts off with, I pray that this harmony is coming about. I know that not long after we celebrated the wall coming down, we made $10,000 assaults a day on a country the size of Oklahoma and Texas. So I don't know. We've seen violence in Eastern Europe, Southern Africa, and Ireland. I don't know if we hadn't better stay on our intellectual and spiritual toes and not rest too assured that things are getting better. And then she goes on to talk about the word that comes to mind, how we make the constant change or the change constant is that we must use discipline. And the application of discipline with love should start at home with each person. We need to watch our thoughts and be careful what we think. If we are careful of what we think, we will be careful of what we say. And if we are careful of what we say, we will be careful about what we do. She goes on to talk about the things we teach in Science of Mind without saying what we, like Tracy would, what we teach in Science of Mind is, and then go on to list it. She simply goes on to talk about it in the context of being a committed human, a committed spiritual being in the world of humanity. And so, let's see, I may have time to highlight one or two more. How can we overcome the fear many of us seem to have of that which is different from us? This is in the middle on the right-hand side. A statement was made by a man named Terence in 154 BC. He said, I am a human being. Nothing human can be alien to me. Terence was an African slave. He was sold to a Roman senator and then freed. He became the most popular playwright in Rome. 6 of his plays and that statement have come down to us from 154 BC. This man, not born white, not born free, not born with the chance of ever achieving citizenship in the Rome of that day, said, I am a human being. Nothing human can be alien to me. And everybody should think about that. It's what we teach, that there is no hierarchy in the human species, except what we in our humanness begin to label, and except what we in our humanness begin to believe, except what we in our humanness begin to make decisions based on. And so I love that we're getting the same message from someone who actually lived their life with that context and is able to explain it without saying, I am teaching you Science of Mind and you better memorize this. So I have time for one more. So I'm going to skip to, in the article, her response. Oh, it's so hard. So I'm going to squeeze 2 in. So the question that she was asked was, you once said in an address you gave that you were trying to make home your heaven. What did you mean by that expression? And she She describes, hold on, I lost it, trying to move too fast. She said, there's a line in her response that I really want to quote. So some of you, like me, may know that quote. There's a title. There's an old Negro spiritual that the title is "Trying to Make Heaven My Home." Right. So that context is there, but even without that context, she shared, "I want that as well. I want to make heaven my home." And we're at the top on the right hand side. I want that as well. But I also want my home to be heaven. In my home, I want there to be peace and beauty and love and laughter and support and growth and creativity. And I work at that. I'm very blessed that the people in my home also work at that. And we have really a healing home. In truth, many people come to this house and find themselves healed physically and psychologically. That's because there's a conscious attempt on the part of everyone in the home to make our home heaven. I love this. And there's a different interview that I read with her that she was being interviewed, and she actually talked about times that she has invited or required people to leave her house because they were behaving in a way, even after, kind of some coaching or some boundary setting, they were behaving in a way that disturbed her peace and the peace of others. And so she would basically say, that's not the energy here, or if, this is not the place, like, get the heck out of my house. I'm sure she didn't say it that way. So it's like, yeah, we are the ones who are the keepers of the energy in our homes. And then she goes on to respond to the next question. In the larger home, which is our world, our planet, do you believe that God is always available? And this is the response that I will close today's show with. On the right-hand side, I certainly do. This morning, it was raining, and I was driving down a street where trees on either side of it have filled out so lushly with leaves that they meet overhead, and the water was dripping from the trees. It was beautiful. And I thought, Lord, you've given us so much. And we, out of our perversity and the presence of madness and evil, and out of a lack of balance, all of which we turn to so quickly rather than turning to the good, often we tend to make this place hell. And it's so heavenly, so beautiful. And she goes on to talk about her experience traveling in different places of the globe, and believing and seeing there isn't any place which doesn't have great, astounding, heart-stopping beauty. Yet we ruined the rainforest. We turned the desert into a sort of moon crater looking hell. And we're at each other's throats. And God is present. I mean, like, just to be reached for. And so it's up to us to really bridge the gap. It's up to us to take these lessons and integrate them into our lives the way that she did, and then to encourage others to do the same. And we all know some of the best encouragement is by the example we set, so that the people who see us, meet us, engage with us, or simply are around us or observe us can learn from our own example. And I would be well, I wouldn't be anything, but it would be a waste for me not to remind myself and all of you, since we are having this Science of Mind conversation on the Saturday, November 2nd, that if you live in the US, there is an election coming up next week. And it is a time, a very important time, and an opportunity for us to actually ask the question, are the people I'm voting for representing, or are they able to move us toward a place where our home, in the context of our cities, our towns, our states, our nation, and the globe, where this is a person, or these are the senators and the representatives and the city council members, and right, all of the leaders that we are electing, are they the ones who are committed to, who have shown us their commitment to make our home a heaven? So that is our show today on Science of Mind, Saturday morning conversations. I really hope that you will visit the New Thought Media Network throughout the week, because there are so many opportunities for you to have the reminders that you can make this home, your physical house, but also the planet we live on, a home that represents heaven. Join us next Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Mountain Time for Science of Mind and Spirit Saturday morning conversations. My name is Tracy Brown, and I will see you again soon.